Okay, for the second part of the prompt, what I wanted to do is go back and show you where you can find your documentaries. While you are allowed to find a documentary on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime, you can even find one on HBO or Showtime on demand. I would suggest your first stop be Canopy.com, which is like the Netflix for college campuses. So I'm going to go here. You're going to have to create an account. I'm already done that. And then what happens is after you create the account, I believe with the login information is your Southwestern College information, your login for MySWC. But they are going to ask you for the name of the college, and you'll say Southwestern. But they break it down by categories. So if I go to documentaries, you can see here it's ethnicity and identity, politics and current affairs, media and popular culture, women in society. So I really want you to pick something that's of interest to you, because I'm thinking that paper number 4, because we have so little time to get to it compared to the first 3, you're not reinventing the wheel. So let's just say media and popular culture. And there's 9 videos. There's not a whole lot. Advertising's image of women, violence, manhood, and American culture, Latinos beyond real. I'm guessing this is about video games. Sexual harassment in the video game world, Native Americans in Hollywood. So there's a bunch of them. Well, not a bunch. There's 9. But the other subjects have more to choose from. So let's just say subjects, documentaries. Oh, how did I do this? Let me go back. Sorry. Documentaries. Okay, so documentaries. Let's do women in society. There's 6. So see what you can find, and you can use, or you should use, Canopy first. Just a little side note too. There are other types of movies here as well, so you could, if you need something to watch, there are all these things here too. There's 80 movies here, so if you got the time. All right, so that's what you're going to do in terms of selecting your documentary. What I want to do is talk to you a little bit about MLA format and how the paper should look. And MLA format can be a pain in the butt. And I know that if you haven't used it now, you'll be using APA for like all your psychology and sociology. MLA is for English classes, world languages, humanities, and so on. And it is different than APA. So if you go back to the prompt, no, actually, if you go back to the module, if you go back to the module, and the prompt itself is week 14. The video that you're listening to now is found in module week 12, but what I wanted to do is go to the prompt here. I wanted to go over a couple things with you. One of the biggest complaints I get is students who don't understand what I'm asking them to do. And I keep telling them, go back to this handout from summary to analysis. Some of you may be familiar with Access, which is AXES. And if you're listening to me now, if you type in AXES in the comment box when you submit your paper, I will add a few points to your paper. I forgot to do that for paper 2, but AXES, type that in when you submit your paper, and I'll throw some points your way. But what this does is this is the way, or this is the format for figuring out, not figuring out, but for moving beyond summary to analysis. So what I mean is this. If you're watching, or if you had just watched Precious Knowledge, and you said something like, the movie shows high school students and their ethnic studies classes. They talk to students, teachers, teachers, parents, elected officials, and so on. Curtis Acosta said the superintendent, I don't remember what his name is, Joe Schmo, said, great. That's just telling me about what you saw. That's literal. There's things that you can read and write about at the literal level, which means you're just kind of regurgitating what it is that you read for a test, for example. Inferential is when you take it a step further, and that's where the point comes in. And this is what I mean. In answering the prompt, the filmmaker used several types of support to create an effective documentary. That's your point. Every paragraph that's not your intro or your conclusion needs a point, because many of you have very well written essays, but you're just telling me about what you saw. So the question is, so what? Why is this important? Why is this significant? Why is this interesting? So the illustration would be, for example, they speak to the high school teachers who are involved in the debate over these classes. One of them, Dr. Curtis Acosta, said, blah, 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 blah. You tell me what he said. The explanation, and then for those of you that did do the pie format, you have your point, you have your illustration, and you get a little off track with the explanation. The explanation is, why is this point or illustration important or interesting or significant? They talked to more than two, but let's just say two high school teachers in the Tucson district is important because, and that's where you come in. So why do you think it's important that they talk to the teachers? Why do you think it's important that they talk to the elected officials? Why do you think it's important that they had clips from newscasts? Why do you think it's important that they spoke to the parents of these students? So this is a very basic pie paragraph. And that would be where you, I'll tell you now, your points are this. The argument, claim. That's one paragraph, that's 1 point. Evidence. This could be many not many, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, whatever you think. And each of those points is going to be a paragraph. So a point on statistics, a point on expert witnesses, a point on research, a point on personal experiences, whatever it is you think they have. Ethos, logos, pathos would be one of them. For example, the filmmaker uses various rhetorical strategies like ethos and logos, like let's say ethos and pathos in the film to blah, blah, blah. That's your point. Illustration is, for example, the use of pathos or an emotional appeal, blah, blah, blah. This use of pathos is important because, and I don't type very well in front of people, sorry. So this is how your paragraphs would be set up. Even though it's a letter format, you would still have a paragraph. So instead of the filmmaker, Mr. Moore Michael Moore. And if you want to, if you look on Netflix or Hulu, Michael Moore has probably 10 different documentaries, and they're all very interesting. Most of them are pretty upsetting. But Mr. Moore, I appreciate how you use various rhetorical strategies like ethos and pathos in your film. That would be how it would be different. Or I liked how your tone changed in the film depending on what you were addressing. I noticed pathos a great deal in your use of sarcasm when you were interviewing different people, like the police officer, was it Idaho, Wisconsin, where the beagle shot the officer? And I'm not making this up. If you Google dog shooting police officer, there is a case that just happened a couple days ago where a dog's foot got stuck on the trigger, and when the dog ran, the gun went off and the owner of the dog was shot. Pretty badly, actually. Like the police officer and the beagle who said, blah, 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 blah. So every paragraph needs a point. You need to illustrate it with a quotation, and the quotation would come from what somebody said in the film or what somebody said in your outside source. All right. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of point, illustration, explanation. Speaking of quotations, and you can go to writingcommons.org or you can go to the Purdue Owl. I have about 3 minutes left on this video. Let me save that for the next video. So stay tuned.